There are so many reasons to grow live plants in an aquarium. Plants can transform a glass box into a little habitat, and today we're going to talk about floating plants. Hi everyone, Colin here, and welcome back to another aquarium video. Today's video about floating plants is going to cover a range of topics as to why they're so good in your tank. They can provide good control over algae, they can improve water quality by absorbing fish wastes very quickly. They provide a lot of security and protection for adult fish like gouramis and bettas. And they also improve the breeding success of fish because the eggs can fry, can hide. And surprisingly, also plants can grow better with other floating plants. From a very small plant to an enormous dense jungle, floating plants can turn a tank from this to this, and very often only within weeks. And much like an indoor pond, they are full of life when plants take over. So in today's video, let's go through some of the reasons why floating plants are really good for your aquarium. Most plants don't really enjoy growing underwater. The light becomes weaker and weaker the deeper the water becomes, and also the CO2 becomes less. However, up on the surface, it's a different story. They've got direct access to the brightest amount of light, and they can take CO2 directly from the atmosphere. So floating plants have an enormous advantage. They have a superpower. The superpower of supergrowth. These plants can grow much faster than any other plant in an aquarium. The surface of the water is the most perfect conditions for plants to grow, and they take advantage of those conditions to the extreme. So much so, they usually will take over and blanket the surface of every aquarium. So whilst you can leave them go for some time, here this tank has gone about 3 months and the surface has become completely clogged. And at some point you will have to remove the excess of those floating plants just to continue to have good water circulation and good oxygen exchange for the fish in the tank. This superpower of explosive growth is exactly where all the benefits come from for your aquarium. This 10-litre bucket is totally full of plants I'm removing out of the tank. But sadly, I wasn't able to sell these plants online, so they are going to go out to the compost, which is a really sad day to see really great aquarium plants being put to waste. But here is the surprise. Trapped inside this dense mass of floating plants are some more baby plants, and these belong to a different plant altogether. These are Java ferns. These started off as a spore on a leaf, and they've floated up to the surface, becoming trapped. So before Java fern becomes a mature plant with a rhizome like this, it starts off as a little tiny little thing like this, and it floats away and forms a new colony somewhere downstream. But in this case, they're just all trapped within this floating plant. Now, before you remove lots of dense plants from your aquarium, expect to find fish eggs, expect to find perhaps baby fish and shrimp. So before removing any amounts of large plants, always check for stragglers. And what starts off as a little baby plant, before too long becomes enormous. And here I'm rescuing a lot more baby plants than I expected to find, and altogether, as I'm going through checking to see what I've got lots and lots of this crested Java fern, and altogether I'm pulling out about 20 little baby plants from this floating plant that I'm going to put in the compost. So again, before you throw out any amounts of dense plants, go through it, check, and just make sure that there's not things that you're throwing away other than the plant that you want to throw out. So this is a huge amount of Indian fern. I was so sad not to be able to sell it, but in this case, having gone through it, I've rescued a whole heap of Java fern and Java fern Windelov, and these are being returned back into the tank. And I'll leave these just to float and to grow, and they will, over the course of another few months, become big enough to sell. And I'm now able to produce somewhere in the order of about 50 or 60 adult plants to sell every couple of months. And they all start off as these little tiny baby plants just floating up on the water surface. You'll notice I've still got some Indian fern left that I did not throw out, and that will again grow incredibly quickly and form a great tangled mass up on the surface. And within that tangle of Indian fern floating plants will be all these baby Java ferns, and they, being close to the surface, getting lots of light, will also grow quite big quite quickly. So the surface is just the ideal area for any plant to grow, and what the floating plants provide is a structure that the other baby plants can form into and give them a stable and secure place close to the light to get a really good chance to grow and form a new adult plant. So having floating plants, expect them to overtake the surface, let them go for a while, but at some point you'll need to thin them out. And when you thin them out and remove some, make sure you check that there's not something else you want to be keeping, whether it be shrimp, little fish, or baby plants. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.